The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Welcome to it. Great to be with you on a Monday. It's Hail Varsity Radio. We're presented by Currency for all your equipment financing needs. Go Currency. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. As we gear up, NFL Draft is over and finished. Some reaction to how the draft went and some future Huskers, current Huskers, and former Huskers all busy. When I talk about future Husker, Nebraska has a new point guard fresh from Iowa City. We'll get into that. And a number of Huskers signed free agent deals. We'll talk with tight end Travis Vokolek as he's off to Baltimore in about 20 minutes, a little less than 20 minutes here in Hour 1. In Hour 2, it's our Blackshirt Hour. Charlie McBride with us, and then Jay Moore back-to-back there in Hour 2. Numbers to get in can join us today at 489-1240, 489-1240, or 800-825-5865. Can always email the show, Chris at hailvarsity.com, and watch the show, stream us. Different ways to do that. The Hail Varsity YouTube channel, go there and subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything. Great content and videos and daily shows with coffee and cream and Hail Varsity. Check that out. The Hail Varsity Radio Twitter handle as well. Give that a follow. Can watch the show live that way at HVarsity Radio. Good weekend. Did you blow away? I made the mistake of swinging the clubs, not well, mind you, with my buddy Nate up at the Fremont Golf Club. And awesome setup. I was just really bad after the first two holes. We wussed out after 9 because it was Lieutenant Dan taking on the hurricane-type weather. And let's just say it was a better idea to get back to Lincoln and crack a beer there. So a little windy, but you survived dumping.
Yeah, good for me on the baseball diamond. We had some run rule games, couple games with a lot of home runs. So you always like that whenever the game goes under the scheduled run time. That's always a perfect scenario for umpiring.
Elijah wants the under.
And we got the under on Saturday. I tell you what, that was great stuff as we get ready for postseason baseball coming up here for the next couple weeks. That's really exciting for the local high school kids. And then Sunday went up to Platte River State Park and took the dogs on a little ruck. So the wind almost blew us away up there, but luckily you get into the hills and into the trees, and it takes a little sting out of that wind.
Eastern Nebraska, thankfully, I think by Wednesday it should flip over to true spring. It'll be nice.
Don't say that. You're just jinxing things now.
No, I mean, the forecast says what it says. I've got a derby party with Iowa Russ to get ready for on Saturday.
I was talking with Will over in the newsroom before we started the show. He's already started his derby preparation, all his notes. He's got like a big packet with a whole bunch of highlighter marks in it.
I love Will. Will and Hooksy are my favorites. But Will, it's all about the bourbon. Don't tell me about, you see, these are all packets I'm studying. I'm getting the win play show. I'm going to make some. Great, good. Go put the money down at the casino down on 77. Totally get it.
But no, my advice along with you, you're saying the bourbon. I say have a couple mint juleps and see what name sticks out to you. Let the mint julep carry you.
That is, we've got the special Churchill Downs mint julep recipe.
No, right.
Yes, at Iowa Russ's Saturday, so that's it. Maybe I'll just hand out invites for Iowa Russ's deck. We don't have anything to give you here on the show, but I can get you an address and a location.
They have the authentic Kentucky Derby mint juleps stocked up.
There we go. Sorry about the permission thing, Russ. Me, a few hundred friends going to show up. So we'll talk with Travis Vokolek. Excited to do that. Really awesome podcast from the good folks at 24/7.
College Football Daily.
Yeah, College Football Daily. Brandon Marcel, Lance Lynn did this. And they got a really good sit-down with Coach Rhule right after the spring game. What do we say, midweek last week this dropped?
I think last Friday it dropped.
So it's even more
I think
they
chatted last week and they finally got it posted.
They played
up on
it.
Friday.
Okay. So there's some really pretty cool, insightful stuff from Coach Rhule. We'll have some excerpts from that.
Yeah, we obviously can't play it all, so we encourage you if you want to listen to the full interview.
Yeah, we want to
check
give
them out.
those guys, we're all about our friends at Hurrdat and all the plethora of podcasts and Husker podcasts you can check out. Do that.
Yes.
This is great, though, because it is a guy that's clearly interviewed Coach Rhule before. There's a high comfort level, and it's just a sweet podcast. It's really, really good stuff. The term beast to awaken was used by Coach Rhule. So we'll have an excerpt or two from that. Ajay Allen. Let's go there. The portal. That is the news. We'll get into the Husker draft picks and free agent signings as well. A busy weekend. Ajay Allen, man, he was a guy I think a lot of us were excited about when he transferred in from TCU. TCU's had a good long history of backs going all the way back to LaDainian Tomlinson. That's not a comp. I'm just saying they've had some dudes play ball there. Aaron Green, former Husker, transferred down there, had a good senior year. Spielman ended up, he went to TCU, didn't he?
Spielman ended up there.
Yeah, okay, and it didn't last, but whatever. I mean, he was good enough to hit that roster. You saw what they were able to do this year to get to the college football championship game, and I think they had 8 guys drafted this year. So TCU's a very high-level program in that Dallas-Fort Worth area with access to recruiting, and to get Applewhite as the running backs coach from there, and then get Ajay Allen.
I mean, combined with Mickey Joseph's Louisiana connection,
sure.
Because he's originally a Louisiana kid. Mm-hmm. I mean, this was a high-level kid. I think he was ranked as a top 10 running back in the country coming out of high school.
And I still think he has the ability to be a top 10 running back. So let's go through the loss of Ajay Allen. We've touched a lot on Casey Thompson Friday and Saturday. Ajay Allen. Listen, I think it's hard to say buy-in and then have a transfer happen. But listen, this was down to the wire. Ajay Allen went through spring. Ajay Allen's a good enough back in an era right now where you can go get NIL as a high-level guy, still with your high school reputation, okay, and your recruiting ranking reputation. He didn't do anything wrong at Nebraska. He just got hurt, jacked his collarbone. What could have been with Ajay Allen running the football last year? Different style of back than Grant. But Ajay Allen's a guy that if he finds the right spot, will be all-conference, could be all-American. He's that good. Mm-hmm. He is good enough to be RB1 in Lincoln. He is. Now, how did this spring go? He missed time in spring due to injury, coming back. He had some fumbles. Not going to tag him that he's a fumbler, but he had some fumbles, and you saw one happen in the spring game. And it just came down to numbers, Elijah, didn't it? I mean, you've got Gabe Ervin, who they really like, is kind of their thumper back. You have Grant, who I thought looked the best. Ramir Johnson looked really good. And it's not that Ajay Allen's not, in his own style, a better running back in some instances, or a guy that can be that home run threat in that running back room. Yes, he could be getting the guy. He could be the guy that's getting 20, 25 carries a game. He could absolutely emerge. Let's talk about working harder or working smarter. And sometimes, as much as you hate to say it, it might be smarter to go land somewhere else and be the guy versus hoping to be the guy. Or say you get dinged again in fall camp. And it's not that can't happen somewhere else, but you can go in as a running back favorite to a lot of programs versus beating out Grant, beating out Gabe Ervin, and even being, and I don't know that Ramir's strictly a third down guy, but I'd sure as hell play him on third down with his pass catching ability and his running ability. So it was a full room, and good for Ajay Allen sticking it out as long as he did, trying to make a dent.
And from what we saw in the spring, it felt like a guy who was probably fourth in the pecking order, as he kind of laid out. Mm-hmm. And he's good enough to go be first or second in the pecking order in a lot of places, not in the future, probably this fall. If he lands in the right spot, he can be first or second in the pecking order. And it just, a combination of factors here. A, the crowded room as you laid out. B, your position coach, the reason why you came to Nebraska, and Applewhite, he's out the door, and Mickey Joseph as well, another guy who recruited you very hard, no longer here at Nebraska. You're fourth in the pecking order, at least from what it looks like from the outside looking in, and you didn't get the strongest start to your spring, and it kind of put you behind the 8 ball as you had to miss some time with injury. So with all those factors, it makes sense that a fresh start might be best for all parties involved, not just Ajay Allen, but also the running back room and what's going down there, because there's a lot of mouths to feed in that running back room, a lot of guys that could be starters in the Big Ten. I think you have 3, and based on what we see from Allen coming out of the portal, wherever he ends up, I think you may have had 4 guys that could have been at a lot of places in the Big Ten receiving the lion's share of the carries. And if you look at Anthony Grant, Gabe Irvin, Ramir Johnson, and Ajay Allen, I think a lot of those guys would be in the mix at a lot of Big Ten schools. And because of what you have in the running back room here at Nebraska, you're just going to go look somewhere else to get an opportunity. And Ajay Allen among those 4 guys really did make the most sense with the combination of Applewhite and Mickey Joseph no longer being here. So
you got a better shot, and maybe you get as much or more as what Juan's asking here. Juan Camacho chiming in here on the stream. Allen has NIL at Nebraska. Absolutely. And maybe you get more NIL somewhere else. Don't know that he is or isn't. I'm just saying that's a factor. And you've got Casey that's a commodity with his experience. You've got Wynn that's a commodity with his experience. Quarterback, interior defensive line, running backs. Well, Ajay Allen, I mean, I'd be surprised if he doesn't end up at another Power 5, and I think he's a guy that could wow some people if he stays healthy next year. What could have been in Lincoln, but working harder versus smarter, or vice versa, is this. That's the reasoning to me. We haven't talked to him. We don't know what he was thinking, other than, hey, it's not out of the realm of possibility. Folks are always going to be reaching out to guys that aren't the starter, and they'll still reach out to guys that are the starter. That's just how the way of the world is now with the portal.
And I think the best part of this situation for Ajay Allen is he's not a guy coming off of a severe knee injury last year. None of those lower body injuries that seem to hamper running backs. A collarbone injury is not an injury you traditionally think of as being a long-term injury for a running back. It's, hey, miss the season, rehab, and you're back to your old self by the time next fall rolls around. So you hope that's the case for Ajay Allen. You hope he lands on his feet. And I think that's been a positive from this transfer portal, despite the guys that you don't necessarily like seeing go. Wynn, Casey Thompson, Ajay Allen is... I think with the roster numbers the way they are at Nebraska fans, Nebraska media, even the people within the university, teammates can all say, hey, you know what? There were some names that need to move on, and we can wish you the best as you go off in your next adventure, because I think all those guys are guys, the ones I just listed, that can be in line for some significant playing time next year, and I think that's what you want these guys. If you're going to go elsewhere, if you're going to go hit the transfer portal, we as Husker fans and people around here, we want to see the best from you. That's why I think there were so many people that were excited for Adrian Martinez in K-State last season, is we want the best for you. It didn't necessarily work out here. You gave it your all while you were here. We appreciate that, and we want you to go and, you know what, maybe make an NFL career for yourself. Go get some playing time. Go do well elsewhere.
Yeah, don't go to Boulder and run for 250 yards the 9th of September. Tyler checks in. Any chance Smothers comes back? That was kind of the narrative when we were talking with Mitch last week when the Smothers news dropped. I think there's a door that's possibly open. Guys may dip their toe in, but may not jump in the pool. I don't know where it stands if you put your name in the portal, if the door's shut and locked on you because you're exploring your options, or if the door is open. It also comes down to scholarship numbers and how many guys does Nebraska want to put on scholarship that right now are some walk-ons versus the other scholarships they're already carrying. I'd love it for Smothers to come back.
And the note is about 45 minutes ago, Logan Smothers did put on Twitter, he made the announcement official that he's got 2 years of eligibility. He's a graduate transfer, meaning he has immediate eligibility wherever he wants to go. And what's interesting with Smothers is he didn't have to put his name into the transfer portal last week. Being a graduate guy, he could have done that at any point, but it seemed very important to him to get that degree. And I think now that he has the degree, I think the chances of him coming back to Nebraska are probably lower. This seems like a guy who, you know, it's not about the education anymore. I know they're student athletes, but let me go play. And I don't think Logan Smothers is going to be in line for significant playing time next year. So I'd be among the guys that have entered the name of transfer portal, probably the most surprised if he were to
based on what the quarterback room looks like right now, brother, I'd put him as if you're okay, based on your skill set and athleticism and the fact they brought him in, Sims is the guy that the coaches are most comfortable with. But if we're going behind Sims, I'm sorry, but and there's really no two buts about it. Smothers, to me, through 3 quarters, when we all have experienced quarterback film to look at between Purdy and Smothers, and we haven't seen in-game what Harburg can do, give me Smothers as my number 2, right, to go run the offense and be that run-pass quarterback option threat, use his legs, but he's in the portal, and let's see where he lands.
And I don't think that's what he wants for himself.
No, absolutely not. He wants to go play.
I think you go a little closer to home, get a chance to play, get your family to see you with your final 2 years.
Totally get it. Okay, we'll have some of those comments from Coach Rhule in about 20 minutes, so that is on the docket, his latest sit-down with the College Football Daily podcast, some pretty revealing items. Dion, the evaluation process with his recruiting, and, of course, Wyatt can and will work in Lincoln. Travis Vokolek worked really well in Lincoln, tremendous tight end. He's off to Baltimore. He joins us next.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Thanks for hanging out. It's Hail Varsity Radio. We're presented by Currency. Schmidt and Elijah Herbel. We welcome in tight end with the Baltimore Ravens, Travis Vokolek. Travis, how's that sound? Thanks for the time, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It sounds awesome. Ready to get out to Baltimore and get to work.
Do you like crab cakes?
I've never had a crab cake before. I've kind of been looking up stuff about Baltimore because I've never been out there. Of course, I've been out to Jersey, and so I know the East Coast a little bit, but never been to Maryland. And I've heard a lot of good things about their crabs, so I'm anxious and excited to get out there and try it.
The legend, if we go back to the cinema classic Wedding Crashers, it's crab cakes and football.
Mm-hmm.
So, crab cake fan?
Me? Hell no.
No,
I'm not a big seafood guy in general.
All right, so
give me a steak. Personally.
We'll leave all the seafood to Travis Vogelin. Travis, take us through your weekend as you're able to land in a spot that is playoff ready. Man, they're a high level football team.
Yeah, it's been a crazy past couple of months, going from all the training to combine to pro day, and then being back in Lincoln. I'm living out of my mom's basement right now, so that's been a lot of fun. But dad's down in Illinois, got the Southern Illinois defensive coordinator job. So
awesome.
Mom's still living here, dad's down there, so been back in Lincoln, and it's been a lot of fun. Stressful at times, but a lot of fun, learning a lot, and everything leading up to this weekend, just showing all the hard work paying off. And we started Thursday night. Knew my name probably wasn't going to get called on Thursday, or so just watch and to watch all those guys. I trained with a bunch of those guys that went, first round, and then guys on day 2 and day 3 as well. It was awesome, hearing that those guys get their name called. I'm just so happy for everyone who's getting an opportunity, whether drafted or undrafted or not. All my teammates, O'Shawn and Trey. So happy for them, and of course Gene Ellie and everyone else getting an opportunity with invites to mini camps and signing as undrafted guys. It's just awesome. It's been around these guys the past couple of years, and just seeing the growth in each individual year by year has been something that's been awesome, and just growing really close to them. And I'm just so happy everyone's getting an opportunity. This weekend was crazy. Was hoping to get my name called, didn't happen. But everything happens for a reason. Just super excited to get an opportunity to go out to Baltimore.
And Travis, one of the things you'll hear from guys who went undrafted, I think guys like Will Compton have mentioned this before, is if you're a 7th round pick, you don't get to choose where you get to go. But if you're an undrafted guy, you get to choose where you end up. So I want to hear your decision-making process. Why was Baltimore the choice for you? As we got a comment in from Brennan here on the stream saying you're going to get a chance to work with Mark Andrews. What a great opportunity. That factor into your decision?
Yeah, a lot of stuff goes into it. I had a lot of offers thrown my way. I felt Baltimore was the best opportunity. Going out there, they've got a great tight end room, and a lot of coaches and I talked with over the past couple of months really see me as a true inline, true Y tight end. I'd love to play other spots as well, but think my strengths are in line. With blocking big guys and still running routes and catching balls. But the decision going into is just opportunity. Just being able to go into the tight end room and learn from a guy like Mark Andrews and a couple other guys. I know Charlie Kohler, he's up there. He was at Iowa State, and he played with my cousin Chase Allen at Iowa State, so I know him a little bit. So being able to learn from him and all the other guys as well is going to be an unbelievable opportunity.
And Travis, I know a lot of undrafted guys end up spending the first part of their career being really valuable special teams guys. That's how they can really first make a difference. So have you been practicing the old tackling technique, or are you feeling comfortable there?
Yeah, I'm going to do whatever I'm asked to do, and I think special teams is something that I'll definitely be asked to do. And I know that, of course, I want to go in there and contribute right away as a tight end, but just doing whatever I have to do to be on the field and make the roster is something I'm excited about.
Travis Vokolek, Husker tight end, and now part of the Baltimore Ravens with us here, Hail Varsity Radio. So what's next, Travis? What's the schedule look like? Do you have to head off to a rookie mini camp? What's the next couple of weeks look like?
Yeah, so I'm headed out there on Thursday morning. So I'm leaving this week, going out there for a mini camp this weekend, and then I'll actually be back for a week and then head out for OTAs that following Sunday. And, I'll head out there and we'll start, doing all the stuff, workouts, the team practices and stuff that it all goes into. So I'm just super excited to get out there, and it's an unbelievable opportunity. I'm very thankful for.
Is Baltimore a squad you followed or watched from a football fandom standpoint?
Yeah, I've always been a big fan of Mark Andrews. I love the way he plays the game, and have a lot of respect for him and all the other guys on the team. I know just during the draft that Lamar news came out with his contract and everything. So super excited to get up there and meet him and everyone else on the team, and just ready to attack it.
Travis, did you know anyone on the team? I know you played against Harbaugh a couple different times during your time in college, and you played against the starting center for the Ravens, Tyler Linderbaum. Are there any relationships that you've already made with guys currently on roster?
So like I mentioned earlier, I knew Charlie, one of the other tight ends from Iowa State, playing with Chase, my cousin. And then I think that might be it. I know Gus, one of the running backs. He was at Rutgers with me. He transferred from Miami to Rutgers. That'd be my first or second year up at Rutgers. So I know he was up there. Haven't talked to him in a while, so it'll be good to get back there and talk with him.
Spring ball wrapped up, also on the minds of many. Travis, any connection or contact with some of the friends you still have on the team? Looked like a lot of work went into this first spring under Coach Rhule with some of your mates.
Yeah, I've been talking to everyone, and Nate and Thomas are just a few guys in the tight end room I've been talking with, and they seem to think that everything's going in the right direction, and I do too. I think, they were talking about, spring practices were tough. They're grinding, and it's all going to pay off. I think Coach Rhule has the program headed in a great direction. And I've loved, it's been weird not, since I was in college for so long, not being in spring practice right now. It's been kind of weird. But it's, I've been up at the facility working out every day. So every day after practice, all those guys come walking in and I talk with them. So it seems that, everything went well, and I'm just super pumped for those guys.
Travis, one of the connections that I've made this spring is that I really feel like this Husker offense could look something like what the Ravens already run. A quarterback that can beat you with the arm or with his feet. A lot of two tight end sets. They really like beating you up and running the football. Did you see that being a possibility for this Husker offense, being like the offense that you're going to in Baltimore?
Yeah, I definitely do. I think there's a lot of weapons on offense, in Baltimore and then here in Nebraska as well. So I definitely see the similarities. It's going to be a fun offense to watch for sure.
Travis, I look at the tight end room the last few years in Lincoln with Ethan Carter, guy that didn't get drafted. He made the Bengals for a number of years even as an undrafted guy, and then signed a deal with Miami. Your buddy Jack Stoll is doing well in Philly. Dear friend Austin Allen, also New York and Green Bay, and now you're another tight end off to the NFL. What's it take to play tight end in Lincoln, and then how does that translate to Sundays?
Yeah, it takes a lot. I was very fortunate to have Coach Becton as my tight end coach, and he played a huge role in developing us. From Jack and Oz and me. He was awesome, and he really just made an emphasis on the details and everything that you do. So I think that's one thing, is just you got to be very detail oriented in everything that you do, whether that's eating, working out, practice, going over film. Everything's detail oriented, and you just got to keep that in mind in whatever you do. And then you got to be physical, and you gotta love to catch balls, but you also gotta love to block. So that's my favorite thing about tight end is, people say quarterback is one of the hardest positions on the football field because they have to know everything. Well, tight end does too. We gotta know all the pass game and all the run game, all the protections. We gotta know everything. So that's something that I love about the position, and it takes unique individuals to be able to excel in it.
Yeah, you got to block like an O lineman and run routes like a receiver.
Yep, exactly. And you're big-bodied dudes, so it's awesome.
Last thought, as Travis Vokolek kind enough to join us, he's off to the Ravens, Hail Varsity Radio. How did you celebrate? Were you with friends? Were you with family? How did you soak in inking that deal?
Yeah, I had all my family. A lot of my family's from Nebraska, so I got my grandparents, my aunts and uncles. Dad was fortunate enough to make the trip up from Illinois, so he was here, and everyone was at the house. Lane McCallum, one of my best friends, the game-winning kick against Northwestern is what he's known for from all the Nebraska fans. He was here. Obviously all the NFL guys are already gone and off in their OTAs and workouts, so they weren't able to make it. But we had everyone at the house, just relaxed, and played 18 holes of golf on Saturday morning. So went out to Hillcrest, played some golf early in the morning, and then came back and watched the draft. And then when I got the news that I was heading to Baltimore, just continued to hang out with them, and had a very fun night.
How'd you shoot?
I played decent. I played with my girlfriend's dad. My sister came up, so her boyfriend was here, and then my dad, and we went out there. It was beautiful weather. It was a little cold. We teed off, and it was like 40 degrees, and then it turned out to be gorgeous out. So it was perfect weather, and not a lot of people on the course, but shot well.
I love that, man. No sleeves, maybe a stocking cap.
Well, that 40-degree weather, that's to get you prepared for Baltimore, Travis. Because I'm looking around at some of the other guys.
Before the wind, too.
You got Garrett Nelson going to Miami. Trey Palmer's going to Tampa Bay. O'Shawn Mathis going to L.A. I mean, a lot of guys going to warm weather spots, yet you're going to the cold, chilly city of Baltimore. Any thoughts on that? Why didn't you pick a warm weather spot?
I mean, I'll be prepared for it. We've had plenty of cold practices and games here, especially with the wind. It's just nuts here. But, I'll be ready for that. And, I like to think that, we can play in whatever elements out there. So those guys can enjoy their sunny and, hot days, and I'll be up in Baltimore, just perfect days.
I like it. Travis, best to you and your family. Thanks again for a few minutes today.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
Appreciate it. Good stuff from Travis Vokolek. Best wishes to him as he's off to the Ravens. Really good tight end room. High-level NFL franchise. I mean, a couple of Super Bowls there. And
not to mention you get to play with a former NFL MVP in Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, Lamar's for real, man. You know that.
And if we're talking special teams, you get to go play with the best kicker to ever do it in Justin Tucker. Well, and I think Sam Cook's still on staff.
Yeah, Sam's
really good.
Our old buddy Sam Cook is still out and rocking and rolling in Baltimore.
Yeah, really good opportunity for Travis out there.
We'll have some comments from Coach Rhule in that 24/7 pod sit down. Don't go anywhere. Charlie McBride, 25 minutes away. It's Hail Varsity, presented by Currency.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Good news for Fred Hoiberg as he's able to import from Iowa City. Aaron Eulis is part of Nebraska basketball, 6'3" point guard. That is good news. We'll get there in a little bit. Let's spend some time on Matt Rhule. Again, to give credit to Brandon Marcel and Lance Lynn, College Football Daily, their daily pod with 24/7. Their sit-down last week, midweek with Coach Rhule. It dropped Friday. Tip of the cap and a big-time thanks to Travis Vokolek for coming on after signing with Baltimore. Really happy for him. His family's as good as it gets. Really enjoyed following him from his time transferring in. And he was a dude that would sit down with us during the week several times. Just awesome to get to know him a little bit and talk with him. Love his game. Like how just shifty he is after the catch. He's a comfort zone to quarterbacks for Nebraska, and really enjoyed watching him make plays. Think of the Illinois game and the 60-yard touchdown, and I think of just how strong his willpower is, because he battled through a lot of, not that he was overly injured, but just battled through some nicks and cuts and some dings, and he always left it all for Nebraska.
Yeah, always.
Hell of a good ball player.
Oh, and as you said, always the guy willing to play through the pain, put the team first.
Big time. And he's got the talent. And think about it. I mean, you got Austin Allen, you've got Vokolek. You got to run a tight ends that have found their way to stay in the league for a lot of years, drafted or undrafted for Nebraska. I think he's got the talent to do it. So let's jump in to some of Rhule's comments here before we talk with Coach McBride. And this is Matt Rhule explaining to the guys, and these are national recruiting folks that cover college football, why he thinks it can and will work in Lincoln. We know where Nebraska's at. We know where they need to climb to as far as from a competitiveness standpoint and the relevancy side of things. Nebraska's got to get off the mat. That's why you bring in a guy like Coach Rhule if you're Trev. And here is Rhule, again, talking to Lance Lynn and Brandon Marcello.
You know, first you say to yourself, okay, it's Nebraska, it's Lincoln, Nebraska. You assume it's like out in the middle of a cornfield, and then you get here and it's like, wow, like there's a city here. And then you have another city 45 minutes away, and there's
there's 250,000 people.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean,
Lincoln.
You come to Lincoln. I mean, there's like, I thought it was gonna be like a one stoplight town and a campus, and all of a sudden, most of my coaches live on the other side of town. They live 25 minutes away. I mean, it's not like it's like a small little town. The Haymarket downtown. When Julie and I drove through there, I was like, if we can't recruit here, we can't recruit anywhere.
Yeah.
And I've recruited a lot of places where you have to say like, hey, be careful going over here. Hey, please don't go to this side of town. We have all the benefits of a college town. We have all the perks of a small city, but we don't have, hey, be careful going over here, going over there. So it's a safe place. And I think parents like that. So I thought Lincoln itself was one piece. I think the other piece is when you really go back and study the last 20 years, Coach Pelini never lost. I mean, he always won 9 games. And so that might have paled in comparison to what happened in the 90s. But, winning 9-10 games a year is still pretty impressive. And so it's not like it can't be done. Coach Riley had one really good year. I just think for us, it's like, okay, hey, how do we bring everything together? And I think my unique experiences, having been at Temple, having been at Baylor, having gone to the NFL in an age of, transfer portal and NIL, I think the NFL prepared me for this time as much as anything else.
And Schmidt, I love that he went with the Lincoln's a safe place, because that pales in comparison to what we've heard from some of the mayoral candidates in the past couple of months, and that's as far into politics as I'll go.
We're a sports show.
That's as far into politics as I'll go, but I do appreciate
we're going to stay
that.
a sports show. But no, I mean, listen, he's recruited in Philly, never been to Philly. One of my favorite movies is Trading Places, and listen, there are some not nice areas of Philly based on that movie that's almost 40 years old. No, in all seriousness, though, listen, if we can't recruit here, we can't recruit. I think that's. I mean, I'm laughing at that, but I'm not laughing at it because you have a lot of what you need to recruit and win here. The blend here of old and new, and that's the thing that really sticks out about Coach Rhule. He's old school, but he's also new school when it comes to making connections. And this is a bit of Coach Rhule on this pod, how he's mixing NU tradition with his style. And his style, to me, is all about connection with kids. And here is more from Rhule in this 24/7 podcast.
For players and coaches and staff who want to be high achievers. We tell them, hey, this is a caring but not coddling environment. This is where highly productive, high achieving people come to be with other highly productive, high achieving people. And so I think that's it. So everything, we're always questioning everything. How can we do this better? Like, I tried to be a spread coach at Temple year 2. We had a top 10 defense, whatever it was. We won 6 games. I changed. How do you win at Temple? How did Al win? How did Dazio win?
Yeah.
Power football defense. Yeah. We win 10 games. Go to Baylor. You go 1-11. We had a sports science guy there, Andrew Altoff, who had worked with Art. I'd say, show me the practice plans. Show me what Art did. We adapted. We took some of what we had done, some of what they had done, adapted to the heat. As much as anything else, the heat in Texas was something we had to manage. And then we win 7 games. Then we win 11. So, everyone has a philosophy of how to win. I'm always saying, how do I win here? And how you win here with the wind in Nebraska, with the cold, with the travel, with everything that we have here, how do I win here is completely different than maybe how I won at Baylor. And, the process is still the same, but the details, the blueprint, they change every place that you go. So I've tried to lean on Coach Solich, Coach Osborne. I've tried to study the past to best, build a new future.
So here, it's early yet. What's that look like offensively for you?
Well, I think we're going to look a lot like we did at Temple. At Temple, we could line up in the eye and pound the football. We could spread out and still run the football. We could run the quarterback some. We could RPO some. But we were going to run the football on a good day 30 to 40 times. And we could, when we threw the ball, we threw it with meaning. Like we dropped back and we would take shots. We would be explosive. And then we want to be elite, situationally. Like I want a big armed quarterback who could push the ball down the field, but someone that can, convert 3rd and 5, 3rd and 7, throw touchdowns in the red zone. So even if you watch the way that we practice, it's usually, run, play, action period, some version of 3rd down, some version of red zone, some version of 1 minute, 2 minute type situations. And so I divide everything up in my head in college that way. And so, we're always going to have pretty intricate drop back passing game because no matter what your style is, at the end of the game, when you need to go 80 yards to score, you better drop back and throw it. On 3rd down, you better be able to drop back and throw it. And then we'll always build our running game based upon who we have. If we have a running quarterback, we're going to run them. If we have a drop back quarterback, we're going to hand it off. And so that to me is what we did at Temple. Baylor, we were just a little bit more no huddle, spread out all the time. Whereas here, I think we're going to kind of be a little bit more old school, get in the huddle, control the clock, pound the football, take shots, play great defense, win special teams, and let the elements help us as well.
The weather's very real. You and I have bitched about the weather. I don't know. Take a drink. This is the 3rd time in this first hour we've whined about the wind. But it's real. I turned to my buddy Nate, was golfing with on Saturday. He's like, brother, we're trying to golf in this. You imagine trying to throw a football in this, where it's a constant 25 mile per hour gust, and then it would crank up to 40. Do we have time for Dion?
Let's save it for next segment.
Okay. Matt Rhule was asked specifically about the comments and were they directed at Coach Prime. So he'll have that answer for you. Again, the College Football Daily Pod, Rhule was on that. It dropped Friday.
And we can't fit everything that they had. It's 30 minutes of that show.
Listen,
go check it out. We encourage you to do so.
We're not paid sponsors for these folks, but they're really good professionals. They're awesome with the world of college football.
And they did a great job with
great interview with Coach Rhule. We'll wind down hour 1. It's Hail Varsity, presented by Currency.
And now,
back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Our old friend Bill Dolman sent the college football best coach in college football contest. And you've got Rhule v. Saban
in the final.
Because Nebraska fans always show out online, and you want to get clicks. You post something positive or negative about Nebraska. So there you go. Good for Coach Rhule. What's he think of Coach Prime? More from Matt Rhule's sit down with the College Football Daily crew, and what was real, what was imagined about Rhule's comments after a Saturday scrimmage, and what was ran with by PTI.
First of all, I respect Deion Sanders immensely. What has he not been successful at in life? And I recruited Quaylen Jones out of his high school there in Texas. So I would never take a shot at Deion. That being said, I'm going to talk about what we're doing. When I talk in the media, I'm talking to our players, our recruits and our fans. And for me, in the situation that I was in, where we don't have 5 open scholarships, for me to be talking about the transfer portal means I'm saying that, hey, these players have to leave. And I don't, even if a player is going to leave, I don't want to put that pressure and anxiety on my own guys. And so my statement was, hey, I choose to focus on, I had some really good recruits there that day, and I wanted them to hear it. I'm not worried about the portal guys today, guys. I'm worried about you high school juniors. You're important to me, and how we're going to build Nebraska is with you guys. Everyone's going to look at the portal, see if there's someone that can help them, but I'm going to build this program, and we're going to build this program with high school players. And I wanted my players to know my focus is on you. And that's a message I use a lot in recruiting. A lot of kids will tell me like, hey, coach, such and such coach texts me 50 times a day. And I'm like, I'm 48 years old. You're 18, 17. Like, you should be talking to your girlfriend, not me. I'm going to recruit you hard. I'm going to have real conversations with you, but I'm not going to wear your phone out. And I think people appreciate that because they're getting 200, 300, 400 texts a day. Yeah. I'm here to coach my players that are here and then have real conversations with the guys. So that was an important message. I hate that it got flipped that way. I do know, obviously, Colorado was making a big, but so were other people. It wasn't just them. In terms of what they're doing, I think Coach Prime's done an amazing job of making them highly, highly, highly relevant. Like, it's all anyone's talking about. Luckily, they play a game before us. Shador's there. He's a great player. Travis Hunter's there. He's a great player. I think it's what college football needs. Like, we can't have just a couple schools in the north and a couple schools in the south. And we need players, coaches, and schools in Texas to be great. We need Nebraska, Oklahoma to be great. We need Colorado to be great. We need Oregon, Washington, UCLA, USC. We need the whole country to have relevant teams. And so having Nebraska, Colorado back for the next 2 years should be, and Coach Prime's going to make it a lot of fun. Hopefully I can keep up.
Amen. Give me the Buffs in Nebraska, not just this year and next. Give them to me every year. We're working on Coach Barnett to make that a reality.
Well, I've been saying I think you should do, and I'm not sure if the NCAA would actually go for this or not, but like some sort of spring game scrimmage against a former Big Eight. Like you have a rotational of Kansas,
just
Kansas
schedule
State,
the Big Eight,
Nebraska, Missouri. Just do like a little rotational. You get to scrimmage one of the teams in the spring. Like
I don't,
it's not the same, but like give us
really
something.
Need to see Nebraska play Rutgers or Nebraska see Maryland. Can we trade? Can we do an interconference trade? We will send Maryland to, I don't know, somebody in the ACC that they're used to playing with.
I'll call up Tony Petitti. I'll get on that for you.
Yeah, you do that. We'll have a thought here from Coach Rhule on how long the build will take. We get into playoff discussion. We'll ask Coach McBride that. We haven't done an Ask Charlie for a while. So you got a question for Coach McBride? Get that into the stream or get that into the email. What do you want to hear? What do you want to know from Coach McBride? Chris at HaleVarsity.com. Hour 2 on the way.
The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Thanks for spending time. It's Hour 2. It's Hail Varsity Radio. We're presented by Currency. For all your equipment financing needs, go Currency. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. It is that time. We'll get into some of the submissions from Ask Charlie and a really cool comment. So that'll happen here in a little bit. We welcome in Mr. Blackshirt himself, Charlie McBride, a Monday with Charlie. Coach, how was the weekend? How are we dealing with the some of the rain and wind and Mother Nature up north? I know we talk about it, but it'll get warm sometime, I promise.
Well, what we do is go from one day in the 30s to the next day in the 50s, but the wind is decided they're not. It's you can't direct nature, and so we're getting the same as you are. We're getting a lot of wind, and the golf balls start blowing around the wrong way.
That's my story. That's what I'm going to go with. Well, I want to dive into. We were listening to a little bit of Coach Rhule last hour, talking about the weather and really asking the question, how do I win here? How do I win in Lincoln? And you got a lot of considerations, specifically with talent acquisition, the league you're in, And then those Saturdays, home and away, what weather elements am I going into? Talk a little bit about planning a defense, preparing a defense, and then coordinating with the wind and snow and rain. I mean, the old Big 8 and Big 12 days, I know we got a little warmer in Texas, but, man, you had to really prepare for it and play through it, didn't you?
Yeah, you did. You didn't pay any attention to it. And I mean, I probably, like a few, like I think most of our guys grew up in bad weather, played in bad weather, and never paid any attention to it. It was just part of the deal. You didn't even think about it. It was snowing out, you went and played. And you didn't go, oh, my God, it's snowing out. What am I going to do, wear a long shirt or a short shirt or, all that kind of stuff. So I think that has something to do with it. And I think psychologically it has, a lot to do with it. I know that we have had guys that have come here from the South that actually wanted to come here and wanted to come in this kind of weather and learn to play in it and play in it. And then there's always maybe a few crybabies. We had most of those were out at Arizona State when I was there. And then, we had about 4 or 5 guys that were big-timers, and they all got drafted to places like Buffalo Bills and the Minnesota, and things like that. Not one of them went to the South. So they had to learn quick. But I told them all along, that they aren't going to pay any attention to what you say. You're either going to play there or you're going to be gone.
Well, Charlie, I'm not saying this is in the works or anything, but we're talking about the weather in Nebraska. How would you feel if Trev Alberts announced plans to build a dome atop Memorial Stadium? We shut out all the weather conditions. It's just 75 degrees and still every single time that you play Memorial Stadium. What would your reaction be?
Well, the one thing is I think the biggest thing in our part of the country there is the offense. What do you do? I mean, I watch Kansas State, and some of these guys bring in these passing coaches, and you just say right away, these guys, they got to understand that the weather's going to be a problem. And, it isn't always the weather. It's the wind. It's your kicking game. It's your special teams. It's so many things, that go on. And if you look at our offense, when you have we ran some spread as the days went on, but it was primarily the I formation, and it was a power formation. It was an option formation, play option pass, and things like that. And all those fit the weather. It fit what the weather, dictated. And as time went on, of course, we threw the ball more in good weather, and we threw the ball more when we were probably in bowl games, threw it a little bit more. But it was an easy thing for our coaches on offense to figure out, when the right time to throw was. And I think if you find out, if you look back in the history of the touchdown passes, don't look at anything else, who threw the most touchdown passes in the Big 8 or the Big 12, I think you're going to find out. You're going to be shocked because we'll be last in passing and first in touchdowns.
Yep, and it was strategic, and it was setting up the opposing defense, man, with the play action or the option game, and then you'd smack them over the top. Well,
sometimes when you get hammered with the passing game, there's no, those guys are good too, and so if you get a day where you can throw the ball against a lot of teams, you got to scramble, and we were lucky. We played a little bit of everything, and And so we were able to kind of adjust there. But there were some games where they threw the ball 500. I mean, they got 500 yards in offense. Mm-hmm. And stuff like that. And it was basically, you know, when you win and people run against you 500 yards, that's where you go home and your wife says, "You think we ought to pack now or just wait to see what happens?" So it's 6-1, half dozen the other. But yeah, he was in the same boat in Temple. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was the same kind of weather he had there. So he's not a neophyte or anything to this weather, I don't think.
Coach, thoughts on the transfer portal? We haven't talked to you since Casey Thompson entered the portal. Are you surprised by that?
No, not really. I'll tell you, if you sit down and think about it, what's he want to do? He wants to go to the NFL. He wants to throw the ball. When he hears the coach say, "We're going to run the football," and then all of a sudden they're running some option and they're running some stuff like that, you know, that says, "Hey, this isn't the offense I want to run." Mm-hmm. And I'm going to have to make a move, and that's probably it's probably part of his thinking. I think he liked it here. I think he really did. I think he liked the fans. I don't think he wanted to leave if he didn't have to, but I think with the way his thinking is, he's going to have to, you know, he wants to go to the NFL, so he wants to throw the ball. And that's, you know, that's probably where he's looking first.
Mm-hmm. Charlie McBride's with us on Monday with Charlie. It's Hail Varsity Radio. Now, what's your outlook for this offense with Sims at quarterback? He's the guy that we think's the favorite. What's the outlook with what he can give you, that dual threat ability?
I look at him as a guy like Turner Gill, a guy that could run the ball, could throw the ball. He's what you're looking for, the kind of guy that can do both things. He can satisfy you with the short passing game, the long passing game. I mean, he can run the ball a little bit. And, you know, and Tom always said to us that, you know, what kind of quarterback do you want? If you ask coaches, I want a guy that can throw the ball first and run second. Mm-hmm. He's probably a passing guy. Well, if you got a guy that want to run the ball first and throw it second, you know, like we did, we looked at running quarterbacks first, and Tom would always say, "We'll teach him how to throw it." Just, you know, get a good runner, and we'll teach him how to throw the ball, because we threw it like, you know, on situation more than it was something that was every down. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, it had to be there to throw the ball. You know, in other words, you're not just out throwing the ball to throw the ball. And it fit with our play action passes. It fit with our option game. And because we had option passes, we had regular drop back passes in some ways. We had play action passes. And so all of those things you have to have a guy that can do, and I think he can do it. He's probably more of what you're looking for in Coach Rhule's offense than you would be, you know, in the past. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, I think that he'd be somebody that we'd definitely recruit, you know, back in the old days when we were, you know, going after guys, because he's strong, he's big, he's, you know, can run, and so I think people will be happy with him.
Yeah, Charlie, I don't think the rushing attack of Jeff Sims is in question. His accuracy can be questionable at times whenever you go back and look at his tape at Georgia Tech, but what he's really got is arm strength. And I want to get your thoughts from a defensive coordinator's point of view. How does a quarterback that can throw the ball 60, 70 yards in the air, how does that stress a defense more than a quarterback that, you know, is able to do short, controlled, accurate passes?
Right. The thing I think is that, number one, you're going to have to look at the weather as to what you're doing anyway. Mm-hmm. The long ball, I say, is you work on that thing. You work on it daily. And every day when you're out, you work on it, and you can improve in that category. I think the thing that's important is that you know how to read defenses. The long ball is, if you're going to throw it to a guy deep, he's either going to take off or run some kind of a thing that isn't going to be a big deal. But when you start getting into the passing game and the crossing and all that kind of stuff, that's when the receivers have to be tied up with the quarterback's thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And so the short passing game, as you know, when you go back to the 49ers, back in the old days when they were really good, that's what they were. When Roger Craig and those guys were playing, look at how many balls the backs caught out of the backfield, and how many, and that's what, you know, I would think that they may be looking at, and it's something, you know, that they have to, you know, be sure their short and intermediate passing game is good. And then you look and see what's going on in the secondary and pick and choose on the long ball.
Coach, I want to ask you about the NFL draft, and you had a couple of Huskers go, Palmer to Tampa, Jason Light, your old buddy down there at Tampa, and then the Rams get O'Shawn, and then a number of kids. We just talked to Vokolek. He signed with Baltimore. Garrett's down in Miami, and Adrian's up in Detroit. What do you think of some of the chances for the Big Red players this draft and this free agency round?
Well, I think free agency is a good deal. Myself, if you go back and look at how many free agents make it, you'll be shocked at how many are playing on each team. How many guys were free agents when they came in? And I think those are the guys. It's just like being a walk-on. When you're around, those guys work their tails off to play, and probably in at least 60% of the cases they play, because they just work. Hard work has done it for them, and so that's kind of the look at what I've always said. The guys that are recruited the last, and you're saying, well, what do you think? What about this guy? Well, I don't know. Well, let's take him anyway. You go back and look and see how many of those guys are around. We hit a bunch of them. Mm-hmm. You know, and all of a sudden they end up being the All-Americans, and it's really hard to say which guy's best. How can you develop him? How smart is he? We don't know those things. Mm. And when you get one and you find out how tough he is, there's a kid that played in the game, in the spring game, that I'm short on the name deal, but he was one of the last guys recruited that we had. Kid from Nebraska, Omaha, bigger, whatever. You know, he was a rover, and now maybe a strong safety, and you know, a guy that's a banger, and he'll really go after you, and he's probably a good blitzer. And you know, before nobody knew who he was really, and I don't even know his name. Of course, like my wife said, all you know is 6'4", 220, 4'6", number 37.
You know the numbers. I love it.
You'll say, what was his name? When kids came in, I said, "You're number 25, aren't you?" "Yeah, how'd you know, Coach?" That's all I knew. I don't know what the hell's your name.
Look, I love it. Charlie McBride's with us. Coach, we ran out of time, but we will get some questions for you next week from the listeners, and we always appreciate spending time with you. Thanks for joining us today.
Okay, guys. Have fun this week, will you?
You too, Coach.
Okay, thanks.
All-State, 2-year starter, and rush in for the Big Red and NFL vet.
Is Dudeness or Duder or, El Duderino if you're not into the whole brevity thing.
It's Blackshirt Jay Moore with Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you. It's Hail Varsity Radio. We're presented by Currency. Second part of our Blackshirt Hour. Jay Moore with us, Blackshirt Husker NFLer, co-host Big Red Wrap-Up. Bird, did you enjoy a little bit of draft? How was the weekend?
The weekend was good. Celebrated my wife's birthday this weekend, so went out for a little bit. But yeah, watched most of the draft Thursday evening, watched a little bit of it Friday. We were kind of out and about Saturday celebrating, but we had it on, just kind of paying attention just to see where some Nebraska guys may go. And unfortunately, happily for them, there were a couple of guys that get picked. I know it was a lot later than what they probably want, obviously, but was good to finally hear some Nebraska names called.
One of those names, O'Shawn Mathis, the first Husker to go in the 6th round to the Rams, one of your old teams. I know that the scouting report on O'Shawn is a guy that can be somebody that could make a difference on third down. Great length with just his wingspan, and pretty active around the ball. Had 50-plus tackles for Nebraska. Not quite the sack numbers you'd like, but was big in that fourth quarter against Iowa. Your take on O'Shawn and what you see from him when it comes to an NFL future?
Yeah, projecting his NFL future, I think he's going to fit well into a 3-4 scheme, which I know LA, the Rams have been playing for the last long time, since McVay's been there. So I foresee him just playing that outside spot. Like I was drafted to play when I went to the 49ers back in 2007. So I think that's probably where he fits. I don't see him fitting very well as a 4-3 defensive end. Just not as big enough, but I see him as that 3-4 role playing that outside linebacker. I see him fitting in just fine there from being able to rush the passer. He will be called on to drop into coverage, just like every outside linebacker in a 3-4 will do. But where you make your money is rushing the passer. I know sack numbers weren't what everyone wanted, at Nebraska, but he can do it. It just didn't set up well for him this year for some reason. And I don't know exactly what kind of, his role was. I don't know if we utilized him the best at times at Nebraska. I thought we could have done some things differently, but you know what? We had to kind of do what we had to do with the guys we had. So, but I think, again, I'll say it here, he's got an opportunity. One team liked him. They got him. If he stays healthy and he's willing to commit to playing special teams, because as a 6th-round draft pick, you're going to have to do it. If you want to play, be on the 53-man roster, come Sundays in September, he's going to have to play special teams. So he's willing to commit himself to that, stay healthy, learn the defense, and commit himself to that. He'll have no problem. He has the God-given abilities to be a really good pro.
Jay, whenever you look at the Rams draft as a whole, they drafted 3 other pass rushing guys. I think it was 2 other outside linebackers and 1 defensive end. So 4 pass rushers they brought in this draft class. And as an incoming rookie, is that a good thing to have to come into competition like that? Or would you rather be the one guy they brought in and put their hopes into? What side of that coin are you on? Because it almost feels like the Rams are casting a wide net here with this draft, seeing if they can find 1 or 2 pass rushers with these 4 picks.
Yeah, you're always going to have competition in the NFL, man. There's only there's only so many bodies, and it's just such a numbers game. Because he's going to go into camp. I don't know what he can have in camp now. 90, 95 players, maybe less than that, but it's competitive. And that's the thing is you might have 95 guys, on your team, or 90, whatever that number may be. But if someone else gets cut from another team during camp, whatever, and they like him better than you, they'll go grab him and cut you too. So you're competing with the whole league as well. Just not with the guys on your team. So that's why it's one of the best businesses and one of the most difficult business to be a part of, just because there's not only those players in the team, but there are dozens of other guys at the position, whether on other teams that do get cut or guys who don't have a home right now and are unsigned free agents. They can get picked up just as easily. So, like I said, it's all about staying healthy, as a young player, committing to the special teams. And once you kind of get those 2, he'll be fine. You just gotta have some credibility. You got to show what you're able to do, and playing well in the preseason games are going to be big for a 6th-round draft pick. And also, I think guys do get rather discouraged if they do get cut and signed to a practice squad. Being on the practice squad is just fine, because you can get pulled any other team can sign you off the practice squad to their active roster. And just if anyone else gets hurt on that team, if he is still with the Rams, they can activate him right away. So plenty of opportunities for all these guys, for the undrafted guys and the 2 guys that went in the 6th round.
The other guy is Trey Palmer. We know what his 40 time produced, the best amongst wide receivers and top 5 in the combine. Trey, straight line is a weapon that the scouts are excited about. Drops was one thing that was highlighted from him. So with Palmer, to your point, yes, special teams will be a need for him to pick up. He can do that, but also, wide receivers are so dime a dozen, and that's not a nice way to say it, but there's a lot of dudes out there. Trey's got a different gear in a room full of fast guys. That could be a difference maker for him.
Yeah, for sure. The speed is, his speed is world class. There's nothing to discount there. You're getting them from that end. Size, not the biggest, not the tallest, so it doesn't have the greatest catch radius. I know that's a big thing in the league, having a big body to throw to. I don't watch the wide receivers in games much, but I don't know how he's able to get off of press coverage. I know the Illinois first round pick that went to the Seahawks with pick 5. I know he held down Palmer pretty tightly in that game, and I'm guessing there was a lot of press man coverage playing up tight. Maybe he does struggle to get off the press. That could have been a factor for him dropping. I thought Trey would have been at least at the latest a 4th round pick. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure he was probably told the same thing from agents and scouts, so on and so. But it's just funny how the draft works. Wide receivers. The first wide receiver wasn't even taken in the first round until pick 25, 26 or something like that. There was a run of about 3 of them. Maybe the first one being the receiver from TCU. So it's just interesting that it's a numbers game, and just how that cookie kind of crumbles in that process, who takes what, and then all of a sudden, a certain team likes you at this spot, but another guy becomes available who they might have a greater need for, so you get pushed back. So, but he's gonna have to work. I don't know how many special teams he's played, but he's a guy that's gonna be able to be a gunner on punt team, and running down there and trying to. That's one of the dirtiest jobs you can get. You got to take on 2 guys. You're running through sidelines. It's a tough gig. Probably run down on kickoffs. On one of the end guys. So he's going to have to do some things that he probably hadn't been asked to do before at LSU or at Nebraska. So again, it's just another opportunity. Stay healthy, commit yourself to special teams, learn from the veterans, and just try to get better every day.
Jay Moore is with us here at Hail Varsity Radio, talking NFL Draft. And Jay, let's get into some of the undrafted guys for Nebraska. There was a slew of them. Travis Vokolek to the Ravens. You had Garrett Nelson to the Dolphins, and more guys as well. But if you were giving advice to those undrafted guys, go stand out in rookie minicamp, go stand out in training camp, what advice would that be to really pop for the coaching staff?
Yeah, it's kind of the same stuff I've been reiterating already. It's a big time commitment to special teams. You have to take pride and ownership in that. I would become best friends with a special teams coach. I would ask him. I would honestly learn to long snap. That would be a huge for a guy like Garrett Nelson, a Vokolek, a Kolarvik. Those guys, you can long snap, man. They'll keep you around. They will, just because those are that's such a hard trait, a skill to have. I would learn that skill as quick as possible, because they'll buy you some extra time in camp. If 2 similar guys and they're trying to figure out who they're going to cut, they're going to keep a guy that can long snap, because that's just adding another tool to your toolbox, and you're able to provide something more to a team that a lot of guys don't do. Because I wish I had learned to do it. But again, you're in your mind when you're young, you're kind of stubborn and naive that think, I don't need a long snap, I'm going to play this spot. Well, I know a lot of players that bought themselves 2 or 3 extra years in the league because teams kept them around as a backup. They were never a starter, but they were a backup tight end, a backup defensive end, a backup linebacker, because they could long snap really well, and they were the backup long snapper. So in case that your starter went down, boom, they could rely and put you in. So that's one skill. Again, just the special teams, and just you just got to learn your role, know your role, ask questions. Like you said, you just got to be excited for the opportunity and understand being on a practice squad is not a bad thing. That's a job. That's another opportunity. And like I said earlier, you can be pulled from any other team to be activated to an active roster spot. So just keeping those things in mind and not get discouraged, and just know it's the numbers are against you. But there's a lot of guys that made a lot of careers, very, very long, successful careers as undrafted free agents.
Jay, before we get to the portal in Nebraska, real quick on Adrian Martinez and him landing in Detroit. I know he's been picked by, was it the USFL?
Yes, picked into the USFL.
Really high draft pick with the USFL, but a free agent deal. I love what Detroit's got going, but I don't know. Your reaction to Adrian, he had a really good season until he got dinged down at K-State, and that's kind of been the story on him. He's been staying healthy.
Yeah. Again, happy he got the opportunity. I don't know if he'd be asked to run as much, in the next level. Obviously, his legs are still a weapon, and he's able to make some plays, breaking out of the pocket and taking off downfield. You just don't see as many QB called runs as we saw here at Nebraska or at K-State. So health, I would think he'd stay a little healthier. But, this was just a great opportunity for him to be a part of the Lions, go into mini camps, go into OTAs, the workouts, go through training camp. And if it works out, great. But it's kind of nice to know that you do have a USFL deal, that he could capitalize on, a year from now when obviously they're playing. But I know first and foremost, you want to make an NFL roster. And again, it's going to be a long shot for him. There's, your teams, usually carry 2 quarterbacks. Maybe they have a third on practice squad. Maybe they do carry 3, and they might have a 4th on practice squad. It just kind of varies how, the head coach and general managers like to operate. But if he could get himself on a practice squad, that'd be great. Being on the practice squad with the Lions, that'd be an awesome situation for him. That'd be a win 100% in my book.
Few minutes, Jay Moore's with us at Hail Varsity Radio, Blackshirt Husker NFL, or at JMoore44 on Twitter is where you find him. You watch him on Big Red Wrap-Up. Well, the news early Friday morning, we haven't had a chance to talk to you. Are you surprised about Casey Thompson? And 2, you look at Ajay Allen. Both guys could have, in fall camp, won a job. I know it was kind of a loaded room.
Mm-hmm. More surprised about Casey than I am about AJ. I know he was, he was really tight with the previous running back coach. So kind of surprised that he did stay in through the spring. But, he gave it a shot. He didn't have the best of spring. He just didn't. I mean, he had some fumble issues in the spring game. He didn't get a lot of.
He was dinged during practice too.
Yeah. He just didn't get his name thrown out there a lot. You heard a lot about Gabe Erman and Anthony Grant, and so those guys. But so not surprised there. And that's such a deep room. There's a lot of running backs there, so it's just whether or not you want to go down that road. Casey, we just talked last week, and I was excited to see the competition battle play out here in fall camp. Now that obviously changes, and he had the shoulder, the shoulder surgery, didn't go through spring ball. Kind of weighed probably his pros and cons of staying and trying to battle this thing out, or going to who knows where he's going to go in with NIL potential and just saying, hey, this job's yours and you can have it. Plus you're going to get X amount of dollars from NIL. It must've been a pretty lucrative and, attractive situation for him to, step away from a situation where he was really good last year for us. And I know it wasn't a situation where it was going to be his to lose, but he's going to have to battle. But in this world now, it's kind of the sad thing is you don't have to compete if you really don't want to at a quarterback spot. You can kind of you can take your ball and go somewhere else if you want and make some money. And I can't blame, I can't blame him. Your window is so small in this day and age to capitalize. And I know he wants to play in the NFL, that you need as many reps and eyes, and you need as many snaps as you can for the NFL to take a look at you and make you a draftable prospect. So I'm sure that's what he's thinking. If he was, thinking he couldn't beat out Sims or didn't want to go to that battle, and he wants to know, he knows he's going to be utilized, and maybe he just didn't like the offense. He sat through the spring and goes, I don't know if they want to run the ball more as a quarterback. Maybe I don't fit that as much, and I want to be showcased more as a passer, and I want to go to offense where I'm going to do that more, and so be it. So that's the kind of the blessing and the curse that we live in right now in this world. You can kind of go wherever you want and take your stuff and move and find spots and go about your business. But rather surprised. But now we kind of talk about it. I'm sure all of those factors weighed in on his decision.
Jay, we spent a lot of time this spring talking about how intriguing the quarterback battle was going to be this summer and into early fall, and now Jeff Sims is the presumed starter. We'll have all summer to talk about Jeff Sims with you, but I want to get your thoughts on what the next most important positional battle is. What do you think we're going to be talking about once August rolls around in terms of who's going to be the starter, who's going to be the backup? Where do you look at it on this team?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think offensive line's pretty solidified with the guys they have coming back. A lot of guys have played a lot of meaningful snaps. It's just about developing depth. The quarterback spot's pretty solidified. I think the tight end, room is, you have technically two starters at that position, or whatever it is. And I think it's the wide receiver spot and the running back spot. The running back spot is probably the most intriguing just because of the depth there, and with Anthony Grant, and then you have Gabe Ervin and some other recruits that have come in. So that one's very intriguing to me, and just kind of seeing how this defense settles in. There's new positions, new names, and a new 3-3-5 defense. I'm kind of interested to see how guys play out and play into certain roles there. And once Reimers and Henrich and Ty Robinson kind of come off the quote unquote IR and start making their names, just see who else is going to step up and play some roles. But I think, to answer your question, I think the running back room probably becomes the most attractive competitive spot, but that's also a kind of a room by committee. Long gone are the days that you have one guy. This is going to be a 2 or 3 running back by committee type of situation.
What about Wynn? We hadn't talked since his departure. Kind of surprising, but not really. A lot of youth got time in the spring game, and Wynn wasn't on that perceived starting 3. That said, Rhule and company want to go 6 to 8 deep, so it's not like there weren't snaps to be had.
Yeah, a little surprised by that one as well. It's kind of a new role, I'm guessing, for him. I don't know what. I've never played in a 3-3-5. All I've been able to is to watch it to what TCU's done this past year. But I don't know if he didn't like playing in that type of a system. That I'm guessing that's part of it. And again, if he's wanting to be a starter and maybe he wasn't, he saw the writing on the table and said, I want to play at the next level. I need to go somewhere to get more reps and to start. And maybe he stays at the Power 5 level, or maybe he has to, drop down to, I don't know, my conference realignment stuff. I want to say like a Houston or Central Florida, but I feel like those, those teams are in the Big 12.
They're back in the Big 12, but yeah, right. I know what you're saying. A lower level G5.
Right. Yeah, I can't even say that. So, maybe going to a North Texas or somewhere along those lines. So, rather surprised, but again, I don't know what these guys have been taught or told, and it's a new scheme. I mean, he came from a certain scheme at Alabama. He came here to a scheme with Chins, and then all of a sudden he got another new scheme. So that's tough. I mean, maybe he found a team that ran something he liked, similar that he's done before, and he wants to do that instead of learning a whole new system. So I can't fault guys when too much when new systems and new head coaches are brought in, and you don't have that much time left to try to capitalize on your talent and your time frame that you have left.
Well, NIL is also potentially a factor here if you're a a fifth-year quarterback with 2 seasons as a starter, and you're a Bama and Nebraska transfer with one more rodeo.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bag of money possibly for you. Jay Moore with us. Jay, we'll get caught up again. Thanks for a few minutes today, bud.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
Big thanks to Jay Moore, Hail Varsity, Blackshirt Hour, Charlie McBride, Jay Moore. Podcast with you, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. Can get each segment or the whole show. Travis Vokolek joined us in hour 1. Lots to get into today, more to cover tomorrow. We're about out of time. Notre Dame has their hand out. Dick Weiss reporting that the Irish want $75 million annually for a new media rights contract with longtime partner NBC. The existing deal's worth $22 million a year. They want to get bumped by $53 million. It's set to expire in 2025. Mr. Weiss kindly asks, when's the last time Notre Dame won a title? I can tell you, 1988. Awesome team. Would you pay it for the Irish?
Million. Good luck.
I know some place can give you $100 million.
You're already going to have Big Ten football
to join the league.
On NBC at night, though.
And now,
back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time, podcast for you, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. Download the audio, watch the video, Hail Varsity YouTube channel. Reminder to get buckled up. 1 of every 3 fatal crashes in Nebraska involves an alcohol-impaired driver. Why take chances? If you drink, don't drive. A message from the Nebraska Department of Highway Safety Office. Email in from Jim. Jim is an admitted Notre Dame fan. He says $75 million is a bargain. Pay the Irish.
Oh, I don't know.
Brand-wise, absolutely.
The thing is I said it at the end of the last segment, you've already made a big investment as NBC into, it's going to be Big Ten football Saturday nights on NBC. That's kind of how the slate's going to go. Fox gets the noon slate, CBS gets the afternoon slate, and NBC gets the evening slate. So I guess
help offset the payment if you're NBC and come in there if you're the Big Ten. And make a deal.
I guess you could do
get them into the league.
Afternoons on NBC to lead into your primetime coverage of the Big Ten. I guess could work, but that's a large investment for one school. Whenever you've already made a big splash,
there are paywalls for everything. Are Notre Dame and their fan base rabid enough to pay a subscription fee for a stream-only channel?
That's a good question.
It's been over the air for years. NBC paid going rate and then probably got a bargain because they got Notre Dame on there in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s. And it was a huge win for them. The Irish and Sweet Lou, they were winning ball games, man, winning lots of ball games.
It makes sense if you put their games on Peacock and then add a $3.99, $4.99 a month fee and you get the Irish network.
Sure.
Something like that. I guess that could make sense.
I don't know. Let's hear one last thought from Matt Rhule when he's talking about construction time. How soon can Nebraska be a winner? Again, this is the College Football Daily Pod. Lots of good stuff from Coach Rhule there. We advise you to go check that out if you're a Nebraska fan.
This is a team that, started off really slow and then, had to undergo a coaching change. And to their credit, the players stayed really resilient throughout the whole year, finishing with a road win at Iowa. And Iowa wins. They go to the Big Ten West Championship game. It gets out before the game that the interim coach isn't getting the job that I'm getting, which was unfortunate. And those kids had the mental toughness to battle through. And so when they showed me that, I said, hey, we're going to go there and we're going to try to win right away. Now, the key is that we're not going to take shortcuts, right? We're not going to, not sign any high school kids and sign all portal players and try to win for 1 year and then take a drop. We signed a good high school class. We're working on next year's high school class. And so we're just trying to do it the right way. But I think we have a chance to be relevant this year.
Is Nebraska a playoff contender in 5 years?
I wouldn't have taken the job if I didn't think it could be. I hate to say things will happen because I try to be very humble. I talk about humble confidence all the time, but there's absolutely no doubt that Nebraska can win at the highest level. We have too many resources. We're in the middle of the country, which that might not seem like a big deal right now, but as you have to start going to LA one week and Penn State another week, our location matters. Our facilities are elite. Our support's elite. Our fan base is elite, and we're starting to have some of the best players in the country take a look at us. And we'll continue to recruit the 5-star, but we'll also continue to recruit the 2-star. We'll always trust kind of what we believe in and hope that we can do here what we did at Temple and Baylor.
That is not Elijah's music, but get the 2-star, go after the 5-star, 5 years, be a playoff contender. Very fair. He's not telling you what you want to hear. He's telling you what he wants you to know. That's his plan. Good stuff today. Tomorrow, Mitch Sherman with us. Scheduled to have Charles Thompson on the show. Enjoy your Tuesday as you head into it. Thanks for your time Monday on Hail Varsity.